Chris Olave is the wide receiver 7 in Dynasty leagues right now. Is he a buy or a sell at that price? We're talking all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Dynasty.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Matt Williamson and Ryan McDowell.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. I'm your host, Ryan McDowell. You can follow me on Twitter at RyanMC23. Joining me, as always, is former NFL scout Matt Williamson. Find Matt on Twitter at WilliamsonNFL. Matt, we're talking New Orleans Saints. If you're talking Saints, we're talking Chris Olave. He's the wide receiver 7, as I said. Are you buying or selling at that price?
I love him. And I didn't when he came out of school, so I own him nowhere, which breaks my heart to know.
We're in lockstep here.
I mean, it was such a good receiver class. It was easy to bump him down a little, but I bumped him 2 or 3 spots further than I should have. So I ended up with 0 Olave stock. And I think he's Stephon Diggs. I mean, I think he's that kind of player that is a total package, playing in a dome, maybe increased quarterback production, but he is wide receiver 7. I mean, this is not a cheap buy. I think I'm still going in because I know the Dynasty community is smarter than most, but I don't know that the world quite knows how good he is yet.
I totally agree.
Okay.
When you look at the 6 wide receivers ranked ahead of him, it's going to be tough to bump anybody down. I don't think you can make it necessarily a clear even a strong argument that Olave belongs ahead of those guys. So it's not a matter of he's undervalued at wide receiver 7, but I still just think there's so much ceiling there, both on the field and when it comes to his value. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle. Those are the guys ahead of him right now in our ADP. I'm buying this guy all day if I get the chance. Matt, I checked out some of the recent trades from DLF, and let me throw a few at you here. There was one, by the way, that's Chris Olave for Tank Dell and a 2024 first rounder. So 1 first round pick.
Not even close.
And as we always say, we don't know the specifics of these leagues, and a year out, even if you're in the league, you might not know the specifics as far as where those picks will land. But unless that's Caleb Williams, you're winning this trade.
Or Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, even then.
Even then, it's close. You get Olave for an extra year, right?
Chris Olave and the 210 for the 1.02 this year. That's a single quarterback league, by the way. That's an easy one. Let's see. What else do we have? We had some good ones here. Chris Olave for Tony Pollard and Terry McLaurin. What do you think about that one?
Fair. I think you get 2 pieces there that are probably about their peak. I think I'd rather have the Olave side, but I could see both sides there.
Yeah, I want Olave there as well. But I agree. It's fair. That one's certainly not far off. Chris Olave for Christian McCaffrey. Chris Olave for the 1.07 and a 24 first rounder. That's kind of more in line with the lower level of what it should be. Olave 112 and 212 for the 1.04 in a super flex league. I think that's way off.
Way off.
You're probably getting, what are you getting there? You're getting Bryce Young maybe, or CJ. No, probably not Bryce Young. CJ Stroud or
yeah. I mean, maybe you're getting Gibbs.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It would be Stroud or Gibbs. It's no good. Don't like that one. No. Chris Olave for the guy we talked about quite a bit yesterday, Miles Sanders, plus Christian Kirk and a 3rd rounder. That's an easy close. One. Yuck, Olave. Yuck. Yeah. Go out and buy Chris Olave. Maybe,
yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
He was not the buy on my list, but these trades that are going down make me think I should be shopping for him to see how how expensive he is in my leagues. I'm going to be doing that very soon.
I got one for you though.
Okay.
Chris Olave for Bijan.
So I believe I have Olave ranked higher than Bijan.
Okay. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, folks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now, again, based on these trades, I don't think you have to do that deal. I think you can ask for more back. If you're getting, if you're giving Bijan or you're giving the 101, you can ask for more in addition to Olave. But that's definitely the type of player I would be wanting if I'm moving the 101.
Yes. Yeah. It makes all the sense in the world.
The player I had listed here as a buy, it's not Chris Olave, although I totally agree with you. It's Taysom Hill, much further down the list. He is the tight end 41 right now, and 41 is a relevant number for Taysom Hill because over the past 3 seasons, he's been a tight end 1, a top 12 tight end 41% of the time. Which is an unbelievably high number. Outside of Travis Kelce, that's going to blow away most other players over that time span. I mean, we're talking about similar type of weekly production as a guy like, even like George Kittle. His percentage there, actually not quite in that range. Kittle 54% of the time, so not a perfect comparison there. Let's see about Darren Waller. Waller is a tight end 1 in even better, 61% of the time. So obviously a step below those. Yeah. Those are the top of the list over the past few years.
They're not tight end 41.
Yeah, that I just don't get it. Tight end 41. I mean, the age is going against him. Taysom Hill is almost 33 years old, but this guy just keeps, he keeps producing. He keeps being the thorn in the side of Alvin Kamara. And, it was Drew Brees for years that he stole those red zone touches from. And, but he just keeps doing it. And that team has changed. New quarterback, a couple new running backs on that roster. Juwan Johnson getting re-signed and getting a little bit of hype lately. But I think until we see Taysom Hill fall off, I'm just going to keep believing. And again, at tight end 41 prices, why not? He is actually the very last player drafted in our ADP at DLF this month. There are 276 players that earned an ADP this month, and he is dead last of that group. So
Mr. Irrelevant. Wow.
Yes. At those prices, I want Taysom Hill on every single roster I have, especially those best ball rosters, whether it's a best ball dynasty league or one of those underdog drafts that you've been getting into lately, Matt.
That's a great case for him, to be honest with you. And we even saw Sean Payton not be there for a year and Hill's still getting carries and doing the gimmicky stuff, so that's big,
Yeah, that's true. And I meant to say that actually, that this time last year, there was that concern that Hill would fall off with Peyton gone. And he didn't. He continued to do the same things. Got the position switch, where he was officially listed as a tight end by the team and by most fantasy sites. It didn't matter. He still, I think he caught 9 passes on the year, and he was a tight end 1 for the season.
Wow. And I do like Johnson, and Moreau is there, but Hill does different stuff. It's a good call.
Yeah. It seems like most of those things are going against him, especially the moves that the Saints have made this year. And again, he's 33 years old and he's got a nasty injury history, but as long as he's out there, I'm going to assume that he's going to find the end zone.
I have one more buy. Olave was kind of my official one.
Okay.
But Rashid Shaheed, I think, is a legit starting NFL receiver. So if I can get him at wide receiver 85, especially as a complement to Thomas and Olave, he's never going to be the man, but he's going to get a lot of single, coverage. He's going to create big plays. Best ball might be a good format, as you mentioned, with Hill. But I think Shaheed's a keeper, and if I can get him for nothing, I'm in. I was shocked he was that cheap.
Yeah, the Saints really didn't do much to upgrade their wide receiver group this year. It's another offseason of will he, won't he for Michael Thomas. He's back on the roster. The assumption was he would be cut, but he gets a rework deal, so he will be back. They drafted A.T. Perry late in the draft.
He's fine.
But other than Olave, it's Rashid Shaheed. And as you said, he is the wide receiver 85 in our ADP. You look at his production as an undrafted rookie this past season, didn't set the world on fire. No wide receiver 1 games, but it would have been a surprise, honestly, if he had any. He did pop up with 2 games as a wide receiver 2 in that range from 13 to 24. And he had a total of 5 games with double-digit fantasy points. Not too bad, right. As an undrafted free agent and as the wide receiver 85. So I like that call for sure. We'll talk about a couple players to sell right after this.
If you're looking for a delicious snack, but you don't want all the sugar and calories, then you need the best tasting protein bar ever. Built. You got to try this. I mean, trust me. If you're like me and you just looking for healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on taste, Built Bars and Built Puffs are exactly what you're after. Built Bars are healthy and they taste amazing. They taste so good that you won't think that they're good for you. Again, you got to try it. The key to me with the taste is the 100% dark chocolate, 100% real dark chocolate. It's not that waxy, plasticky type chocolate you get on bars. It's real nice dark chocolate. And they have some great flavors. My favorite's peanut butter brownie. My son crushes cookies and cream. Churros, a really interesting one as well. I don't know exactly how Built does it, but it kind of tastes like a candy bar while maintaining really, really impressive macros. They're only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, but 17 grams of protein. So now we got a different situation here. You don't have to go only to built.com to get your Built products, but you still can. You can go get your specialty flavors as always at built.com, but now you can go to Walmart or Sam's Club. So walk into Walmart, go to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puff at Walmart, or go to Sam's Club. You get a 13-bar box of the hit flavors brownie batter puff or churro puff. So you can thank me later. Built Bar is good friends here with the Locked On Network and a fantastic product.
All right, we are back. We're talking about the New Orleans Saints, and it's time to focus on a couple players that we want to sell and get off our roster. I think this is going to be tough, Matt.
I had a hard time with this.
You look at this team, and there's a couple of obvious names, and that's the route I went. At least I think it's probably the route you went as well. But it's not going to be an easy sell. I'll get started. And this won't be a surprise. Alvin Kamara is the guy I want to sell. We've seen the dip in production. We've seen the massive drop in dynasty value. There's the concern, the off-field concerns, and there's on-field concerns. This team added not only the rookie Kendre Miller in the NFL draft, but they also signed Jamal Williams, who led the NFL in touchdowns a year ago. There's so many reasons to be concerned about Alvin Kamara and his future, both with the Saints and in general. You look at his ADP this time 1 year ago, he was a top 25 player in dynasty leagues. He was an early 3rd rounder and a top 10 running back. He is now the running back 33 and the 95th overall player, just barely hanging on to that top 100 spot. Of course, you're not getting anything close to what you got a year ago if you're trying to sell, trying to make a trade. But there are trades out there where he's being flipped for a future 1st rounder. I think that's probably pie in the sky. That those are few and far between. If you can get an early 2nd rounder, I would do that. If you can get a young player, whether it's a rookie this year or another prospect that you like. I saw an Alvin Kamara for Elijah Moore deal. Give me Elijah Moore there easily. Those are the types of trades that you're going to have to be making, Trey Lance in a super flex league is another one I saw. I would certainly rather take a shot on Lance in that format. I just want Kamara off my roster at this point.
Yeah. I was torn between Kamara and Michael Thomas, both of whom are very, very difficult to move right now and really in similar situations. Once great, once elite.
Yeah.
But I couldn't really come up with a great sell because neither one of those guys are going to get enough for. They might be sells in October, November, past Kamara suspension, where they're putting up points or starting, and then you can dump them. But I went with Thomas. You'll get even less for him than Kamara right now, but at least there is a little bit of positive buzz about him. It looks like he's actually going to play. So maybe some people think, oh, I'm buying in on this guy because I loved him 3 years ago, but it was like 3 years ago that he was good.
Yeah, the trade finder is pretty ugly when it comes to Michael Thomas, as you might imagine. There's a couple of deals I like here. Michael Thomas for Trey McBride. We talked about Trey McBride.
Wow.
I believe that was last week as a player we would like to target. I would take Trey McBride at this point over Michael Thomas. So I would do that deal. There's multiple trades here of Michael Thomas for a second rounder. In general, I'm taking any second rounder I can get for him. And since we're talking about these two players, I think we have to mention this trade. It's Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas packaged together for Brandon Ayuk. And I would gladly take Brandon Ayuk over that pair for sure.
That might be a Saints fan that made that deal.
Hey,
they might have jerseys of both of them in their house as well as Drew Brees and Ricky
we
Jackson.
all fall victim to that from time to time, right? So if you can,
those were nice.
If you can sell, those are the better than you thought, right?
Yeah.
If you can sell Alvin Kamara, sell Michael Thomas. That's probably not the best advice we've ever given on this show, but
no, but we had to pick somebody.
Get out while you can. We'll talk about a couple guys that we want to hold, that we're hanging on to, and we'll do that next. Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Every dayers, check back tomorrow because Kate and Marcus will be back, and they'll be finishing up the NFC South conversation, talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and players you should be buying, selling, and holding as we get closer and closer to the start of the NFL season. Matt, New Orleans Saints is who we're talking about. I should have done this at the top of the show. Let's name every relevant player here. We talked Chris Olave. He's the wide receiver 7 in Dynasty leagues right now. You see the 3 running backs packed together, and it's interesting that Kendre Miller is the most valuable of the 3 now. The rookie is the RB30. Kamara is the RB33. Jamal Williams is the RB42. Then your guy, Michael Thomas, wide receiver 65. Jawan Johnson is the tight end 20. A.T. Perry, rookie wide receiver, is the wide receiver 76. Derek Carr, quarterback 25. Rashid Shaheed, as you talked about earlier, he's the wide receiver 85. And Taysom Hill, tight end 41. Last player on the Saints, last player in the entire league right now based on our DLF ADP. So when you think about a hold, I'll go ahead and get mine out of the way here.
Okay.
It is the guy we already talked about. It's Chris Olave. And I said I agreed with you listing him as a buy. I guess the only reason I kind of put him in this hold category was, again, you look at that wide receiver list that we mentioned, and it's hard to see him. It's hard to see him overtaking some of those guys, quite frankly. Is he he's not going to jump ahead of Jefferson and Chase. I don't think.
No.
And the group of young wide receivers, I mean, what a great time to love building around wide receivers. We said the names already: AJ Brown, Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Olave. Going deeper than that, you've got St. Brown and T. Higgins. All of those guys are between 22 and 25 years old. So it is a fun time to invest in those young wide receivers in dynasty leagues and just watch them grow, score points, gain value on your dynasty roster for years to come. So I kind of saw a little bit of a value ceiling when it comes to Chris Olave. And that's why I listed him here. Who is the player you are holding from the Saints roster?
I thought about Juwan Johnson because I'm fond of him and I'd like to see more. I wish he was rostered on more of my teams. But I went with Derek Carr. I mean,
okay.
We're talking about obviously super flex. I think he's a starter, but this isn't a super flex conversation for this particular exercise. But if I can get more in return for A.T. Perry than I can Derek Carr, I'm holding Derek Carr.
Even in the one quarterback format.
Right. I mean, if that's what he's worth, I'm just holding him. I can live with him once in a while. Right.
It seems like a lot of the narrative around Derek Carr is that he lacks a fantasy ceiling. He's had one 30-point fantasy game in the past 3 seasons. He's had 8 total games above 25 fantasy points in the past 3 seasons, including 0 last year. He had 8 games in that from between 21 and 25 fantasy points last year. So I think that's the concern, is that there is this ceiling, but there's also some consistency. And if you can lock him in for 19 fantasy points, basically every game, that's not such a bad thing as your quarterback too either.
Yeah. Bye weeks or injuries, I mean, I think he has more value than this. I mean, I think the hate or the stock has just dropped too much.
Yeah. And again, in those single quarterback leagues, I mean, you're just not going to get anything for him. So hanging on to him, I think is a wise move. Here's a Derek Carr for Tyler Algier trade in a single quarterback league. Let's see. We've got now in Superflex, you can get a first rounder. There's multiple trades here of Derek Carr for a first round rookie pick in Superflex leagues. So just the demand, the scarcity of the position, and honestly, the reliability of Carr. Like I said, giving you 18, 20 fantasy points, that's worth a lot. But I bet
he's a starter for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And as they continue to build these weapons,
I picked them up in a single quarterback league where I had very little. I had like Kyler Murray and a bunch of injured dudes. And I think I gave up 3-6 in my rookie draft for him.
Oh, yeah.
And that neighborhood's junk. I don't want any of those guys right now.
That's probably A.T. Perry territory.
Possibly. Right, exactly. So, good point.
That makes sense. That's going to do it for today's show. Please make sure you download and subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Remember to follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. Follow Matt at Williamson NFL, and I'm Ryan, MC23. We'll be back next time with more Locked On Dynasty.